Hello everyone, how's it going? I have an Instagram group which is for people that are drummers, interested in drum lessons, that kind of thing. And I asked if anyone had any questions that they'd like me to try and tackle in there last week. And I've had a bunch of answers and I've highlighted some of the best ones and I'm going to do my best to provide answers for them now. I had a lot of questions come up about double kick. Jamie Stewart, Rodrigo Grana and Manuel Chavez. They all said things, I'm currently lost, I've been playing for many years. I'm trying to increase my speed with double kick. I've done the usual hunt through YouTube, but there's so much stuff out there, I don't know where to start. That is something that I see all the time. So many people talk to me about this. My answer to this question, right? First off, get off of YouTube and get behind your drum kit. Right, that's the harsh answer, but that's the true thing. Loads of people claim to have the answer for developing double kick speed and hand speed as well. All of these answers have one thing in common, right? And that common thing is practicing regularly. Really what these people are giving you is a practice routine, and they're giving you a structure that if you follow, you'll hopefully be able to measure some kind of improvement. That's what these people are giving you. They're not giving you the key that unlocks faster double kick or faster hands, whatever. But you can practice any pattern as long as that pattern provides some kind of noticeable resistance. And the longer you do this for, the more consistently you do this, the closer you're going to get to your BPM goals, right? Speaking of which, be careful with tempo-based goals because there's always 1 BPM more. Doesn't matter how fast you can go, there's always 1 BPM more. Instead, my approach has been to isolate a pattern that I want to be able to play and to set that as the goal, because there's generally a pattern in a song that I can't play yet, so I'll practice that and get closer to being able to do it. I consider that to be accomplished when, to me, the pattern feels good to play, when I look comfortable behind the kit, playing it, and when a recording of it sounds good through speakers. So don't get stuck with option paralysis, like limit the inputs, get off YouTube, get off Instagram, limit the inputs, so that you've got the clarity to get behind the kit and just keep trying and keep exploring. The next part of this is that, the gear that you choose and the techniques that you choose and all of that, we're all genetically unique. So there isn't a single answer that's going to apply for everyone, right? Which is why there's so many answers out there. You have to make the effort to explore the different techniques and the different options, the different pedals and things to figure out what style works best for you and what you enjoy the most. That's really what it comes down to. That's the hard answer, right? Putting in the time to figure out the gear and the techniques that work the best for you. But that is the right answer. That's what I've done. That's what everyone that I know who's playing professionally has done. They've put in the time with the techniques and with the equipment to figure out what they like, and that's now what they use. This is a message from Mark Gasset. Hi, I'm 16, I'm from Catalonia. I just entered in a metal band and I'm normally a fusion funk player. Could you give me some advice? Cool, okay. First piece of advice is enjoy this time, right? You're 16, you're young, you've got loads of time. Use it to discover what truly excites you musically, right? And don't let anyone else's opinions pull you away from what feels right for you, what fires you up the most. Is it metal? Is it fusion? Is it funk? Is it a blend of all of those styles? Whatever your answer is, that's the path to follow. Whatever the answer is to what you're most excited about. Build a practice routine that's easy to follow and consistent as well. You want it like the same days of the week, ideally, and fill that with things that you're genuinely excited to get better at and to master. Having goals that you're eager to achieve is going to keep you motivated and engaged in becoming a better drummer. Starting this early as well gives you a unique edge, right? So over time, you'll develop your own sound and your personality as a drummer. You'll start to sound like you. That's something that is super unique, right? And in this industry, sounding unique is invaluable. That's when your skills stand out from the crowd, and that's when doors will start to open up for you and you can start to turn your skills into a career. When you sound like you, when you sound unique, that's when you're the most valuable to this industry. And in my opinion, you get there by exploring the things that you're most driven to explore and the things you're most excited about. This is a message from Joaquin. How can we work on our sound besides the drums? Things like microphones, interfaces, monitoring. What's your approach to deal with this on tour, home studio, or professional studio? Cool, that's a good question. Honestly, I don't focus too much on the microphones and that kind of stuff. It's never really interested me too much. It's also not an area that I know too much about, really. The microphones that I use live with Tesseract, our sound engineers bring along, and the stuff it gets plugged into, they hire that or bring it along. I don't really know much about it. Same in the studio. I go into the studio and there's someone that sets all that kind of stuff up. It's a big challenge for me, actually, because one of my big goals is to have my own acoustic drum studio, either at my home or somewhere else here. And I'll end up having to get all of that stuff to put out drum lessons that use that kind of gear. And I don't really know anything about it, so I'd have to get the help of experts to really get me started on that. So gear-wise, I don't have much information, but working together with the right sound engineer and taking each other's feedback and advice has been really helpful. For example, an engineer might suggest to me that a particular cymbal or something doesn't work within the context of a live mix, or maybe the snare tuning needs to change in order for there to be more clarity at front of house. I've had that a couple of times because me and the rest of the guys in the band like a low tune snare, but the engineers prefer a high tune snare so that it kind of cuts through the mix a bit more, and we generally land somewhere in the middle. There's a bit of a compromise that happens, but stubbornly, I always want to keep the same gear and the setup that I've got. So it can be a little tricky, but listening to that advice has helped me the most, because it gives you an external perspective that, this is going to be more enjoyable for the listener potentially. And that's something that's worth listening to. The thing that I've found to be more important is learning to develop your own sound, right? That's really it. And to do that, for me, it's been identifying the types of drums that I like, the sizes of the drums, and the drum heads, frankly. Learn how to tune the drums your own way. So, because there isn't one universal way to tune drums, and I discovered this years and years ago. There's all these different ways that people say tune your drums, but I just tune them my way, right? I know the heads that I like. I love Evans clear G2 heads. I use those on the tops of the toms. I love G1s for the bottom. And I've learned over time, especially on the toms, the 8, 10 and the 12, and to be honest, the floor toms now, I can just take the heads off and put new ones on and tune them up. And just from the tension, I know when they're about right. I can tune it up without hitting it with a new head. Hit the drum and it's like, oh, that's how the drum should sound. Sometimes I have to do a bit of tweaking, but especially the 8 and the 10, very little tweaking I have to do these days. But to get to that point where I'm familiar with what the tension feels right, when that feels right, that's taken a long time. I couldn't just do that from fresh. If I was just a brand new drummer, I probably couldn't do that. So I would say focus on a way to develop your own way of tuning, right? And develop the sense of when your drums sound right to you, because that's really all that matters. One trick that I learned years ago from Dan Ford, the drummer for Sixth, is to have the kick drum skin really loose. So mine's a little over finger tight on each of the lugs. Same with the floor toms as well. I tune those up just past the point where they begin to resonate and or into the point where they start resonating and out of the point where they start farting. There's this sound where you can hit a drum and it kind of goes, bleh. It makes this kind of aggressive, distorted, farty sound when the heads aren't working together. I can tune it just out of that range, which is just about tension. It's just taking it just past the point of the whole skin being, not having any dimples in it. That sounds so good on floor toms, especially at front of house. So my 18 and my 16, I just get all of the bumps out of the and the valleys out of the drum head, just past finger tight, and you can kind of angle the drum so that you can see across it. That's when it sounds really, really good. This is a question from Nick de Aquino Haraz. These days, it seems you have to put social media content as the priority over actually playing music. After over a decade, I'm in the same place I started. What do you do as a metal drummer in a metal band to build an audience? That's a really good question. All right, how to build an audience. Be consistent, be true, be helpful, follow what excites you, meet people, play a lot of shows, play all the shows, network, think about how to turn your passion into products that generate revenue. If you do all of these things for long enough, because time is the ingredient that you need with all of this stuff, then eventually you'll build an audience. If you're not excited to make social media content, don't do it. Simply don't do it. But you have to accept that in this day and age, unfortunately, you'll probably be at a disadvantage in a media-driven world where everyone has a attention span of about 1.5 seconds if you're not making content and putting it out there. But if you're playing a live show, then you're making content potentially. You just throw up a couple of cameras and you've got content to post, right? Especially if you can get a board recording, which we can all do these days. If you're practicing for the show, then you've got social media content because you can throw up a camera and you can go live on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all these things. So it doesn't have to really be that much additional effort for you to start developing the audience. I started to develop an audience for what I do on Twitch during the pandemic because I didn't know what else to do, but that ended up giving me a load of skills that I didn't even realize I needed or would use it outside of Twitch. You know, the ability to talk to a camera as though I'm talking to people. I mean, I am talking to people, but right now I'm just talking to a camera. That ability took time. It gave me a bridge between just playing, practicing on my kit here and practicing live, because when I go live, I've got an audience. So now I've got a bit more of a feeling about what it's going to be like when I play live. So, and just by going live, you do that consistently. If you do that on a timeline, consistent days a week, that kind of thing, then you will develop an audience because you get better at it and people tune in, and every now and then someone will like what you do and they'll tune in the next time. And that audience grows over time. You build a community around it. I find it really helpful to set really clear goals and work towards those, basically. So build those into a routine that works around your lifestyle, and that it's easy to turn up for, rather than kind of blindly aiming at this massive goal, which is I want to be in a band and I want it to make me the money that I need, because that's the ultimate goal for everyone in a band, and it's very, very, very hard, and it's still taking us a long time for that to be the reality. It all takes longer than you'd think, basically. I can count on one hand the number of times that there's been a significant overnight increase in any of the metrics of my career. So really, it's better to stop thinking short term and plan long term for all of the things, including audience generation, right? It probably isn't going to happen overnight. The only challenge you have then is weathering the difficulties that come with long term planning, because it is more difficult. And a lot of these are just feelings, because you feel as though you should be ahead of where you are, whatever that looks like. You feel as though this thing should be making you more money by now. You feel as though all of your peers are ahead of you. Whatever it is, the only competition is with yesterday's version of you, okay? I'm going to say that again. The only competition that you have is with you yesterday. So can you keep up with or improve on that person? That's all it comes down to. That's kind of my drive and one of my mantras now, because I can just remind myself of that, what I did yesterday. I'll keep journals of what I did, remind myself I'm grateful for what I did, what I turned up for, and what I achieved, and what can I do to improve on that today? There's also this concept of 1,000 true fans, which is really helpful to try and visualize, where, 1,000 people, we can all probably visualize that. If you've been to a concert, you've probably seen 1,000 people. If you've been lucky enough to be on stage at a concert where there's 1,000 people, you can definitely visualize that. When you visualize that, it doesn't seem this insurmountable task, right, to get 1,000 people to be interested in the thing that you're interested in. And the reason I say 1,000 is because when you've got 1,000 true fans, it's likely that those people will spend at least or around $100 in a year on the things that you do. That could be subscriptions, it could be merchandise, it could be tickets to the show, it could, whatever it is, right? You might release some music, you might release a live stream, whatever. These people will spend around that much on the thing that you do. That's $100,000. It's 100,000 whatever currency you have. Most people in the US or UK, right? That is a respectable living wage in 2024. If you're making $100,000 from the creative thing that you do, sure, there's no limit on this. It can go way above that. But 1,000 people, right? Whatever it is, whatever platform you're on, if you can develop your thing to be able to have that kind of audience, and to engage with that many people to the point where they are true fans of what you do, it becomes a career. At that point, it's a career. So there's more on the internet about that, about 1,000 True Fans. There's a really interesting article that I forget the name of. I forget who authored it. But just search 1,000 True Fans on Google and you'll find it. That's what I have to say about that. I hope that was helpful. So as I said at the start, these are all questions that I've taken from my Instagram drummers group. If you want to join that, go to my profile, and it's just below my name on the profile. It says something like J Poststone's drumming group or something like that. Go and click on that. You can join, and I'll ask some more questions like this again at some point soon. Thanks very much.